parents took my emergency fund to help my brother's failed business. So I sent them a letter from my lawyer demanding payment with interest, and now they came. I found out my parents had stolen my emergency fund as I stood in their living room, staring at the open safe where my money used to be. The envelope was gone, every last cent of it, all $17,000. At first I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe Dad had moved it somewhere else for safekeeping. But no, the truth hit me like a punch in the gut when I called him. "Dad, where's the money I kept in the safe?" I asked. "Oh, we used it," he replied casually, like it was just a normal conversation. "Used it? Used it for what?" "For Brad. He needed help paying his debts." The room spun around for a second. I felt heat rise in my neck. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You used my money to bail Brad out? Without even telling me?" "Chris, calm down. We had no choice." He sighed, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "Your brother was in trouble. It was urgent." "Brad?" Of course it was Brad. The golden child. The one who always seemed to get a pass on everything. He's 25, still lives at home, hasn't had a steady job in years, and thought he could get rich by taking some online course. He was convinced he was going to start flipping products or trading stocks or whatever the latest internet scam promised, but instead he ran up a mountain of credit card debt. And now they had taken my emergency fund to bail him out. I clenched the phone. "You had a choice," I said through my teeth. "You chose to screw me instead." "Chris, don't be dramatic. It's not like you were going to need the money anytime soon," Dad said. I was too stunned to argue any further. I just hung up the phone without saying another word. When I walked back into the living room, my mom was sitting there as if nothing had happened. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "No. It's not," I shot back. "They took my emergency savings. Dad just told me. All the money I've been saving for the last 5 years gone." She sighed and crossed her arms. "Chris, you're acting like this is some kind of betrayal. It's not. We had to help Brad. He's still figuring things out. You know that." I shook my head. "He's 25, Mom. He's not a kid. He messed up, and now I'm the one paying for it. Don't be selfish," she said, her tone getting cold. "You have a job and your own place. Brad doesn't. He needed help, and we couldn't just let him drown in debt." I felt my face flush. "So instead of helping him yourself, you stole from me? Why not sell your car or dip into your own savings?" "Watch your tone," she snapped. "We didn't steal anything. We're a family. Families help each other." "This isn't help," I said, barely able to contain my frustration. "You didn't even ask me. You just took it, like it was yours to take." She crossed her arms more tightly. "It's not like you were going to use the money anytime soon. You're always so careful, Chris. You'll build it up again." Then I realized they didn't care. Not really. In their eyes, I was the responsible one, the one who always figured things out for himself. Brad, on the other hand, was the baby of the family, the one who always had to be rescued. No matter how many mistakes he made, they'd always cover for him. Even if it meant screwing me over. I didn't know what to do at that moment. Yell? Walk out? Part of me hoped there was still a chance they'd come to their senses, but deep down I knew better. They thought I'd get over it. But I wasn't going to let it go. Not this time. I barely remember driving back to my apartment that night. My mind was on fire the whole way. I kept replaying the conversation with Dad and Mom in my head, thinking of all the things I should have said. But what really burned me wasn't just the fact that they took my money, it was how casually they dismissed my anger. "You're being selfish. You'll get it back. It's not like you're going to use it anytime soon." They acted as if my hard-earned savings were just a backup fund for Brad's screw-ups. As if his problems automatically trumped mine because he's the baby of the family. I barely slept that night. The next morning I woke up with one thought in my head: they're not going to pay me back unless I make them. I called my friend Adam, who's a lawyer. We'd known each other since college, and while I didn't want to drag him into my family drama, I needed advice. "Well," Adam said after I explained everything, "they just took your money without your permission? That's stealing, man. Straight up." "Yeah, but they're my parents. I don't know if I can go that far." "You don't go far enough. Look, they stole from you, and now they're gaslighting you about it. If they won't give it back voluntarily, you have every right to go after them legally. You don't owe them another chance." I let that sink in. Adam was right. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. They didn't even apologize. They just expected me to roll over and let it go. So Adam and I came up with a plan. He drafted a formal letter demanding the money back with interest. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. It was a statement. I wasn't going to be their doormat anymore. The letter was sent that afternoon, and I didn't have to wait long for a response. Less than 24 hours later, my parents and Brad showed up unannounced at my apartment. It was the first time I'd seen all three of them together in months. My mom knocked on the door like she was about to stage an intervention. I opened it, and there they were, Mom, Dad, and Brad, looking like they were about to lecture me about how I was the problem. "We need to talk," Mom said, walking in before I could even invite them in. They sat on my couch like they owned the place. Brad didn't say much at first. He just kept looking at me like a kid who got caught breaking a window but knew his parents would cover for him. "What the hell is that letter you sent us?" Dad said, waving the envelope around like it was a bomb. "You hired a lawyer? Are you serious?" "You gave me no choice," I said, crossing my arms. "You took thousands of dollars from me without permission. Did you really think I'd just let that go?" Mom shook her head in disbelief. "Chris, you're blowing this out of proportion. We're a family. You don't send legal threats to family. And family doesn't steal from family." I shot back. "If Brad needed money so badly, you could have used your own. Or asked me. But you didn't. You went behind my back and took what wasn't yours. That's stealing. I could report you to the police if I wanted to." Dad leaned forward, his face turning red. "You'd call the cops on your own parents? Over a loan?" "Loan? It wasn't a loan," I said. "You didn't ask. You didn't negotiate. You just took it. You can't call it a loan after the fact." Brad finally spoke up. "Dude, I didn't ask for it. I didn't even know they were using your money until later. I'm sorry, okay? But they were just trying to help me out. I was in over my head." I glared at him. "You were in over your head because you were chasing some get-rich-quick scheme. Maybe next time, instead of maxing out your credit cards, you should actually work for it like the rest of us." That hit a nerve. Brad looked away and muttered something to himself. Mom tried to jump in again. "Chris, we'll figure something out. But this legal nonsense has to stop. It's just causing more trouble than it's worth." "No," I said firmly. "It's not going to stop until I get my money back with interest. I don't care how you do it. Sell something. Take out a loan. I don't care. But if you don't pay me back in 3 days, I'm going to escalate this. And believe me, you won't like where it goes next." They all stared at me as if I had just grown a second head. I could tell they didn't expect me to stand my ground like this. Dad finally broke the silence. "You've changed," he said bitterly. "No, I've just stopped letting you take advantage of me," I replied. For a few moments no one spoke. I could feel the weight of their stares, as if they were trying to figure out if I was bluffing. But I wasn't. They had pushed me too far this time. Then Mom did something unexpected. She started to cry. "Chris, are you really going to do this? You're going to break up the family over a few $1,000s?" I didn't flinch. "You tore it apart the second you stole from me. I didn't start this." Dad sat back and shook his head, muttering, "Unbelievable. You've always been so damned rigid. Life isn't black and white, Chris. Sometimes you do things for family you wouldn't do for anyone else." "Oh, I get it," I said, laughing bitterly. "But the rules don't apply to Brad, right? He screws up and you guys bend over backwards to save him. Meanwhile, I bust my ass, save my money, and I'm the selfish one for wanting it back? Brad shifted uncomfortably. Look, man, I said I was sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. If I had known, I would have told them not to use your money. You wouldn't have stopped them, I said flatly. Don't act like you had nothing to do with this. For a second I thought Brad might argue, but instead he sighed and sank deeper into the couch. Whatever. This is all blown out of proportion anyway, he muttered. Blown out of proportion? I repeated. You have to pay your debts with my money. I'm out thousands, and you're sitting here acting like it's no big deal. How would you feel if it was the other way around? Brad didn't answer. He just folded his arms like a sulking kid. Then the conversation took an unexpected turn. Fine, Dad said abruptly, standing up. You want to play hardball? Let's play hardball. He looked me dead in the eye. You won't see a dime from us. Not now, not ever. You want your money back? Take us to court. See how that works out for you. I blinked, surprised. You're kidding me. No, he said, his voice cold. You're threatening us with lawyers and cops like we're common criminals? Fine. Go ahead. But let me tell you something. You think the legal system is going to be on your side? We're your parents. We can easily argue that it was a family matter, maybe even a misunderstanding. Hell, a judge might even sympathize with us. You're going to spend months and thousands of dollars fighting us. And for what? To prove a point? Don't do that, Mom added quietly. You'll regret it if you push this too far. I stood there, processing what they had said. For the first time, I felt a twinge of doubt. Could they really get away with it? Could they make me look like the bad guy in court? But then something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them intimidate me. Okay, I said calmly. If that's how you want to play it, I'll escalate. But you'll hate the consequences. I've got proof that you took the money, bank records, texts, phone calls. And if I have to, I'll go public with it. I wonder how your friends and church group would feel about you stealing from your own son. That hit a nerve. I saw panic flash across Mom's face. Dad clenched his jaw but said nothing. Even Brad looked uncomfortable. You wouldn't, Dad said after a long pause. Try me, I replied. There was a tense silence. Then, out of nowhere, Brad spoke. All right. Let's not go nuclear here. Maybe there's another solution. Like what? I snapped. Brad hesitated, then finally mumbled. I have something lined up. A job. It's not much, but I can start paying you back in installments. I can't do it all at once, but maybe if we can work out a payment plan. Dad shot him a look, but Brad ignored it. Look, I owe you. Brad continued. You're right. I screwed up. I'll take responsibility, okay? Just don't drag this out into something worse. I stared at him, trying to read if he was serious or just trying to calm things down. He looked different this time, maybe for the first time ever. He actually seemed embarrassed about the mess he'd made. I turned back to Dad and Mom. What about you two? Are you going to cooperate, or should I call Adam and tell him to go ahead? Dad didn't answer at first. Finally he mumbled, We'll discuss it. But don't expect any miracles. 3 days, I said firmly. You have 3 days. Things are heating up and Brad might actually step up for once. Shall I skip to part 4? After this confrontation, I expected nothing but more stonewalling and excuses from my parents. But a strange thing happened the next day. I got a call from Brad, and he actually sounded desperate. Chris, I need you to come over to Mom and Dad's, he said. We're talking about the money. They're willing to work something out. I didn't trust him. Why now? What changed? I talked to them, okay? He said, his voice tense. Just come over. This is serious. When I got to the house, I could tell something was different. Brad looked more nervous than I'd ever seen him. Mom and Dad sat stiffly at the dining room table, their faces tense but not as defiant as before. We came to an agreement, Dad said. Yeah, Brad chimed in. I convinced them to pay you back in full. I raised an eyebrow. And how did you do that? Brad shifted awkwardly. I promised them I'd take full responsibility. I told them I'd pay them back every cent, $17,000. They'll give you your money now, but I'll owe them instead. I'm starting 2 jobs next week to pay it off. You? I asked, unable to hide my surprise. Yeah. I got a full-time warehouse job and a weekend bartending job, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. They said if I don't pay them back fast enough, they'll kick me out. I can't mess around anymore. I stared at him, trying to process what I was hearing. For once, Brad wasn't looking for a shortcut. He was stepping up. You really want to do this? I asked, still skeptical. Look, I know I messed up, he said quietly. This is my chance to make it right. I'm going to pay Mom and Dad back, and I'm not going to ask them for anything more. Mom sighed and chimed in. We agreed to this because Brad insisted. He doesn't want things to escalate any further. And honestly, we don't either. She gave me a look that was halfway between guilt and resignation. You'll get your money today. Dad folded his arms and muttered. This isn't how I wanted it to go, but here we are. We'll transfer the money to your account this afternoon. For the first time in days, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Good, I said. But let me be clear, this doesn't erase what you've done. You broke my trust. It's going to take a long time to fix that. Dad didn't respond, but Mom nodded quietly. Brad stood and held out his hand. You have my word, Chris. I'm going to take care of this. No more handouts, no more shortcuts. I'll do what I have to do. I hesitated a moment, then shook his hand. It was surreal. For the first time in years, I saw a different side of Brad, one that wasn't looking for an easy way out. Maybe this whole mess had finally forced him to grow up. That evening, the money was back in my account. I checked it twice just to be sure. The relief was overwhelming. I finally had my emergency fund back, but the experience had changed me. I knew I'd never trust anyone with my savings like that again, not even family. Meanwhile, Brad literally went to work. He was up at 4 a.m. every day for his warehouse job and spent his weekends bartending. Mom later told me he was exhausted but determined. Dad didn't cut him any slack either. They told him if he missed even one payment, he'd be out on the street. To my surprise, he kept the deal. For the first time, Brad was pulling his weight instead of expecting everyone else to bail him out. Maybe hitting rock bottom had finally been the wake-up call he needed. Update 1. Hey everybody. It's been a few months since my last post, and I figured it was time to let you know how things turned out. Spoiler alert, there were some unexpected twists and turns along the way. First, let's talk about Brad. I know a lot of you thought he was going to walk away from the deal and go right back to mooching off our parents. Honestly, I kind of thought the same thing. But I was wrong. Brad actually kept his word. He's been working like crazy. He works full-time at a warehouse during the week and bartends on the weekends. At first I could tell he was miserable. He barely slept and looked like a zombie most days. But after a few weeks, something changed. He told me he started to enjoy bartending. Apparently he's got a knack for mixing drinks and talking to customers. Who knew? He's even taking some advanced mixology classes and said he wants to open his own bar someday. Yeah, I know it sounds ambitious, but for once, he's not just chasing some get-rich-quick fantasy. He's actually doing the work. Oh, and here's a surprise. He's already paid off more than a third of the $17,000 he owes our parents. He's serious about making things right, which frankly shocked the hell out of me. Now about my parents. Things have been better, but still awkward at times. Family dinners are tense, and Dad avoids talking about the incident. Mom has made more of an effort to reconnect though. She calls more often and invites me out for coffee, which is her version of extending an olive branch. But the biggest twist came a few weeks ago. Out of nowhere, Dad called and asked to meet. We went to a diner near my house, and after some small talk, he slid a check across the table. "It's not the full amount," he said quietly, "but it's a start." I looked at the check, $5,000. I couldn't believe it. Apparently, he and Mom had talked and decided that they had to pay me back, even though Brad was already paying the debt. Dad didn't apologize outright, but it was the closest I'd ever seen him come to admitting he was wrong. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to tell him to shove it. But then I thought about all the progress Brad had made and the fact that my parents were finally taking some responsibility. I decided to accept the check and thank him. Maybe I wasn't ready to forgive everything, but it was a step in the right direction. Now I'm back on solid financial ground. I've rebuilt my entire emergency fund, plus that extra $5,000. And believe me, I'm never leaving my money in anyone else's hands again. I opened a high-yield savings account and moved every dollar into it. Lesson learned. As for Brad, he's actually turning into someone I can respect. He called me last week and told me about a promotion he's up for at the warehouse. He's still working insane hours, but for the first time he has a plan for his future that doesn't involve shortcuts. We even went out for a few beers last weekend and talked about life. It was weird but nice. Like maybe we're finally starting to see each other as equals. Life isn't perfect, and things with my parents are still a work in progress, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction. Honestly, I never expected things to get this much better. Update 2. Mini update. Things just keep changing. Hey again everyone! I thought the last update was the end of the story, but a few new things have happened recently that I had to share. First of all, Brad is actually moving out. I never thought I'd live to see this day. He called me this past weekend to tell me that he's found a place with some friends from work. It's nothing fancy, just a small apartment near the warehouse, but it's his own place. He says he wants to be completely independent now. He's still working both jobs and hasn't missed a single payment to our parents. He's already halfway through paying them back. But here's the part that really surprised me. Dad actually told Brad that he was proud of him. I overheard it when I stopped by their house last week. It was this quiet, awkward moment, but I could tell it meant a lot to Brad. He didn't say much about it, but you could see it in his face. Things between me and Dad are still complicated, but I think he's starting to understand how much he hurt me. Last night he texted me out of the blue. "Hey, I know I haven't said this before, but I'm sorry for what we did. We should have handled things differently." It wasn't much, but it felt huge coming from him. I wasn't expecting it, and I'm still processing it. For now, I just responded, "Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see where it goes from here." As for me, I finally got some good news on the job front. I have been offered a promotion. It's a small raise, but it will make saving easier. I'm also starting to feel more motivated to plan for the future, something I hadn't given much thought to before all this. Overall, things are going better than I could have ever hoped for when this mess started. Brad is growing up, my parents are finally showing some accountability, and I'm in a stronger position than ever. Life has a funny way of working out sometimes.